Welcome back to our Backyard Brothers podcast. We're still, uh, obviously, by our shirts. It's still the same day. It's still Monday, but we're changing topics in a very jarring fashion. We're moving over to the NBA. The All Star game. When is that? This weekend, I think.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's this weekend.
so we're a little more than halfway through the season, but we want to talk about a midseason report for the NBA teams and where they are, who's performing well, who which teams are starting to ring the panic button bell or starting over for next year and things like that, and just some things that we can talk about from the Eastern Conference in particular. Today we'll cover the Eastern Conference. Next week we'll hit the Western, but we're going to go division by division rather than like going down 1 through 15 standings, so we can get that way. So let's start with the the Atlantic Division in alphabetical order, which also happens to be the number one seed in the Eastern Conference, the Boston Celtics. They have they currently have the best division and best record in the NBA by 5 games, and so no one's even close to the Celtics right now. So 41-12 record. Uh, so let's hand it over. Dustin is our resident expert at this point, so he's going to be talking a lot about some of these teams. But we also want to we don't just want two heads sitting over there in Cody and Yancey. So ask questions or give your piece as well. But Dustin, let's hand it to you first. Celtics.
Yeah, you mentioned a few things that they have a 5 game lead over anybody else in the conference. This is a team that's going to be very hard to catch and makes them the obvious championship contender in the East. A couple stats I want to mention is that their point differential is 9.3 points, is on average. I mean, so when they're winning, they're blowing teams out, and when they're losing, it's very small. This is a huge point differential. 9.3 points on average is big. And so this is a powerful team. Um, Jason Tatum is he should be near the top of the MVP race. He's an absolutely incredible player, but this whole team is doing great. I especially really like what Derek White and Kristaps Porzingis have done. They've really found roles that they couldn't find with other teams in previous years, and this team is just clicking really, really well. Obviously, um, any feedback on the Celtics?
I have a question for you to start with. So going into the playoffs with the rest of the season and then going into the playoffs, what would you recommend for myself and for other sports fans or people who don't maybe follow basketball as closely? Who would you recommend us to be watching closely in these games, and what should we be watching for?
Um, so the leaders in each conference, right? So Celtics, Bucks, right? Look at those teams and watch what they're doing and watch in as you get close to the end of close games, watch how their defense adjusts. Because what teams will do is they're going to run screenplays to try to get their best offensive player on the worst defensive player. That's the strategy. Everything is try to get your matchups that work, and watch how the defenses counteract that by saying, I'm not going to allow that switch, or okay, you get that switch, but I'm going to choose a time to come off on a double team. And so in close games, watch these really good teams, watch how their defense adjusts to other team strategies. Those are the teams you can expect to make a push in the playoffs, because when playoff happens, what you see is average points per game drops significantly. And instead of teams scoring 130 points a game, they're now scoring 105 because the defense steps up big time. And so look for those teams that know how to do that defensively. Also look for the teams that are on the playoff bubble, anywhere between the 6th seed and the 10th seed. Watch those teams and see who can stack a few wins together, and then those are the teams you'd want to watch to see who's ready to make a playoff run. There, that's what I would suggest.
I remember. So last year, I kind of got into watching the playoffs. I was watching Boston and Boston and the Heat just before the Heat beat them, right?
Yeah.
Believe, and I think it was a bio that was given. I don't know who it was, but he was giving somebody down there trouble. He was just beating the Celtics up. Porzingis, is he a big guy? He's he's a
Yeah.
big man, yeah. And so I
He's
think
7'3". Yeah.
okay, I thought so, but I didn't want to sound dumb and be like Porzingis, he's a center, right? And he ends up being a point guard because I don't know anybody. But he should be a good addition to help them defensively, I would guess, right? Like, because I remember watching that and thinking, man, the Celtics are good, but if they don't get somebody to beef up down there, it's going to be trouble because you're not stopping the Joker down there. I promise you. He's going to beat you guys down if you go in there trying to play like that against them when the Heat were giving you that much trouble. So thanks for clearing that up. I was curious to see if they picked anybody up that was going to be able to beef them up down low. Because I think with a couple of additions down low to help your defense, they are a really hard team to stop. And apparently, they're already a really hard team to stop. 41-12 is a good record. That's a good solid record.
Yeah, but the Porzingis comment is absolutely true, and what you'll see is he has range. He can spread him out. He would bring, in this case, Adebayo out of the paint and allow for cutters to get to the hole.
Good.
I picked Jason Tatum way back at the beginning of the season to be the MVP. I think it's a long shot. I don't know why, but I think it is. So yeah. Okay, on to the Brooklyn Nets. Um, they are currently 11th in the East. And this was kind of a rebuild season for them anyway, because everyone kind of left the town running with smoke with tail between their legs. But so what about the Brooklyn Nets? Anything?
Yeah, you mentioned they're 11th. They're out, and this is a team where I could name players and Cody wouldn't know anybody. Right? There's just nobody there. The only exception is Ben Simmons, who doesn't even play. So, which with Ben Simmons, the main problem with the Nets right now is every day the owner is going and taking $1 million and flushing it down the toilet. Because Ben Simmons is getting paid $35 million to sit on the bench and clap politely. He can't stay healthy, and even when he is healthy, he's averaging 4.6 rebounds, and that's about it. He's just a salary suck on the team, unfortunately. They did make some trades and bring in Dennis Schroeder to try to help there a little bit, and so it'll be interesting to see if they can get some of that. But what they've done is they've taken Mikal Bridges, who is a role player in Phoenix, and tried to make him the star player, and he's doing great. He's getting 21 points a game, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, I mentioned back at the beginning of the season as well that this is Ben Simmons' final chance to stick on an NBA roster. It ain't happening. So
Yeah.
Anyone else on the Nets?
21-31. It looks like that's a rough team to play for, right? That's got to be a rough team to play for. And you said really nobody mentionable on their team. They're not even. It doesn't look like they're too much in the running for anything other than draft picks, right?
Yeah, which they've traded draft picks away.
Yeah, they don't have those either.
Oh, cool. The
tough
upside is when you get to the top of the hill, people spit on you. That's great. That's great.
I think I'll just do my question now for you, Dustin. What should Brooklyn be focusing on for this offseason to try to get into contention next season?
That's a good question.
I don't like the current NBA strategy of you trade away half your team every season, because that's what a lot of teams are doing, trying to build super teams, and the trend right now is to trade everyone away to get draft picks in the future, right? And Nets got caught up in that with other teams. And so I don't like that strategy. And so I'm not sure that there's a clear answer because I can't endorse the only strategy that gets them ready for next year. I would instead focus on a strategy 3 years from now, which is find a young core built around Mikal Bridges, build them up, get your occasional 1 or 2 trades here and there, get a free agent signing. You're in Brooklyn. There's not a player in the world that doesn't want to live or play in Brooklyn. You'll get those free agent signings. And so don't trade away your future at the expense of the present. Don't focus on next year, focus on 3 years.
Yeah, I like it. Okay, the New York Knicks, currently sitting fourth in the Eastern Conference. There's no one catching the Celtics. The Celtics are 11-1 in their own division. No one beats the Celtics in that division, but the Knicks are the closest to it. So, anything about the Knicks?
Yeah, I think the biggest call out is they're ranked third in defense. This is a stout defensive team, third in the league in defense. Not too much to say. Jalen Brunson and Julius Randle are the power duo there. They're both, getting 20 plus points a game, and they're dangerous and hard to stop because their skills are very varied. But Cody, a player to watch out for, you kind of asked this question, is watch for the role players whose whole job is to shoot threes. And on the New York Knicks, it's Dante DiVincenzo. His whole job is to shoot threes, and he's making like 44% this season. He is that, like, all of his points are coming from the three, scoring 15 points a game, and it's all coming from the three or the free throw line. That's another thing to watch out for is these teams that have a guy whose whole job is to get buckets.
I don't know if it's tongue in cheek, but for anyone who's not sure, 44% is really, really good.
That's crazy. Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. Yeah. That's nuts.
Yeah. Okay. Any follow up about the Knicks? I don't have any follow up on that one.
I don't think that. I mean, they are in contention, right? Being that they're
fourth.
Yeah. So I mean, they're in contention. What with the third in defense, I would assume that there's some pieces missing on offense, especially if you have a main guy. When you have a role player who isn't playing well, do you see that being a problem for them later on when they're playing better defenses of trying to lean on that role player and having a guy that can just shut him down? Do you think that's a problem?
Yes.
For them specifically?
Yeah, it can be, right? So third in defense also translates to not great on offense because, it's just low scoring games, right? By low scoring games, we're talking about 110 points, right? It's not low scoring, it's low scoring. But yeah, there's a when you need to elevate in order to win, you have to elevate your offense and keep your defense strong. And yeah, it's really all about how are you able to do what you've done during the regular season, do that well during the playoffs. I'm not worried about the Knicks. Fourth is a really good spot to be in the Eastern Conference because Eastern Conference kind of has the split right around this 4, 5, 6 spot where teams start to not be so great around that spot, where the Western Conference, it's more like the 8, 9 spot. And so fourth is a great spot to be. New York Knicks can make a significant playoff run.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah, it'd be better to be third, but because number 5 is the Philadelphia 76ers, and that's who we're talking about next. So that would be the matchup right now. In the playoff, if the playoffs started today, would be New York and Philly. Obviously, Philly has an issue. Joel Embiid out for an extended period of time with his meniscus. I think that's the injury.
Yeah.
And he's the best player in the NBA, at least MVP last year. Since he's gone out, the Sixers are 2-8 in the last 10 games. So they could be falling down these rankings without him. So let's talk about Philly, Dustin. Did I just take all of it from you?
No,
okay.
That's very good. A few things to add to that. So yeah, Embiid it was initially rated 3 to 4 weeks, and they've pushed that to 6 to 8 weeks, which that gets you to the beginning of April, and playoffs start like April 10th. So like the whole Sixers strategy is, can you hold position until Embiid is back? And Embiid is scoring 35 points a game. I mean, where do you find 35 points a game spread out among your players? That is so hard to do, to make that up. What they did is they traded for Buddy Hield, who is a sniper from three. He's a great scorer. And so they're trying to make it up with that trade, and I think it's a good trade. But you got to ask for Hield, Maxey, and Harris to try to just hold position in a really tough spot. Like I said, this fifth spot is a hard. It's that thing where you go one way or another in the East. I don't know if the 76ers can hold position, and they'll probably be a play-in tournament team, and that's just a hard place to be.
I've got a question for you. So we know that Joel Embiid is out, and it looks like on the roster the only other center is Mo Bamba. So what would you say? Let's say you're the coach. What are you telling Mo Bamba to do? Because he's not Joel Embiid, and he can't be Joel Embiid no matter how hard he tries. What is he needing to do to get this team to be successful? Mo Bamba specifically.
Coach is going to tell him to sit on the bench a lot. It's
Okay.
he's going to get 15 minutes a game, and it's because what they're going to do is they're going to shift their focus. They're going to go small ball. They're going to go fast. What they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, we're going to adapt the 7 seconds or less strategy, which is we're going to try to put the ball in the bucket in less than 7 seconds, either a 3-pointer or a layup. And they're just going to run, and just try to put up 150 points in a game by just running the other team, making it a track meet. That's going to be the strategy. And you don't want Mo Bamba. He's slow and big out there. And so they're gonna have
Tobias Harris is playing center.
Yeah, Tobias Harris, who's he's 6'9", which is small for a center. He's basically being a stretch five.
So if I understand correctly, it's you either have Joe Embiid as a center or you don't really have a center. Is that kind of how it is?
Yeah, but the small ball, the
Yeah.
Warriors won 3 championships with small ball. So small ball works if in the right situation. So it's not a bad strategy. It's just you got to figure out a way to make up 35 points.
Mm-hmm.
I like that.
I think to add to that, how are you going to be able to? I mean, we're mid-season, right? So you go from a team who has Joel Embiid, one of the most dominant both-way players, who can get you a ton of points and play really good defense, to now switching an entire strategy to play like the Warriors. And you don't have Steph Curry. You don't have Grant. You don't have a few different key pieces that you would need to play that kind of style of basketball. When you're able to lean on a guy who's not part of that style of basketball. And I think I mean, it speaks itself in the record. 2-8, they haven't been able to produce with that kind of strategy. And I can see why. When you lose the MVP, that's a big deal. When not to make it about football, but when Peyton Manning broke his neck, the Colts fell apart. And that's the same kind of thing you're going to see, I think, when you have your main centerpiece guy go down for 6-8 weeks. That's a big deal.
Yeah, I'd absolutely agree. I think you're spot on that. To try to change a team strategy right now, it's going to be tough. The goal is to hold position, and it's an uphill battle. Absolutely. This is the 76ers are in a tough spot, and it's so tough to say that when one player goes down, so does your championship hopes. But that's the way the 76ers have built it. I mean, and Embiid has said that himself. It says their motto for years was trust the process. And they asked, what's the process? And Embiid says, I'm the process.
Yeah. Great comments. Should we stop at 8 or 9:10 your time, and then continue the next week. Well, otherwise we're going to be getting late. So
Yep.
let's finish up with the Atlantic Division and then go from there. Toronto Raptors. They're 12th in the Eastern Conference. They pretty much sold everything. Pascal Siakam's gone to the Pacers, which means the Raptors are looking ahead to 2024-25. So is there any other way that this can be viewed, Dustin?
No, just to comment on that. So not just Siakam, 12 trades this season. 12 players. You have 15 on your roster, and they've cycled out 12 of them. I mean, this is a team that desperation does not quite describe it. I don't know what they're holding on to, but it's not players.
The logo.
Yeah. So yeah, 12 different moves this season. It's an insane, unprecedented amount of trades in a single season. So much turnover. The only other comment that's interesting for stats is they have not beat another team in this division at all this season. They're 12th in the East. They're 0-11 in the division. They have not beat another team in their division. It's rough.
My question on this team is, well, who are the 2 players I should know?
The ones they're keeping, you mean?
Yeah, man, I got to look up a roster real quick.
That's not the best question for the Raptors, I don't think.
Yeah, they've traded everybody away. Let me look up a roster.
Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, Scotty Barnes. He's a good one.
Yeah, Scotty Barnes was the rookie of the
so many people away. RJ Barrett would be the player to watch. That's why I would say Scotty Barnes and RJ Barrett. RJ Barrett just came over in a trade a few weeks ago, but he's a really talented wing. I think they're trying to turn him into a star. He's not there yet, and I don't know if he'll ever be there, but he's an interesting and fun player to watch. Very athletic.
Any other comments about the Raptors? Okay. I'm going to pause this recording just a second.